Chapter 1. The Call from Home. The desert night in Yemen had its own kind of silence, dry, humming, stretched thin across dunes that looked like frozen waves. Logan had learned to sleep through mortar fire, sandstorms, and the occasional buzzing drone overhead. But tonight sleep wouldn't come. The team was 4 days into a Black Ops recon assignment, high altitude, low visibility, deep terrain infiltration. The kind of job only Special Forces teams took, the kind that required nerves wired like steel. Logan sat alone, near the edge of the temporary outpost, binoculars beside him, the glow of his tablet showing grainy satellite maps. Wind blew fine sand against his boots. Somewhere behind him, 2 operators murmured over a suppressed comms feed. Routine, controlled, predictable. Then his secure sat phone vibrated. No one called him out here. Not unless something was wrong. Logan picked it up, expecting Mason, his old team buddy turned PI, or command giving new intel. Instead, the caller ID flashed a name that made his gut tighten. Dad. Victor never called unless it was something he could not handle alone. The man had raised Logan on a Marine's principles: endurance, calm, pride, handle your business before asking for help. Logan answered immediately. Dad. Static crackled. A breath, a rustle, and then a voice he didn't recognize. Lo, Logan. His father never stuttered. Logan stood up so fast the sand collapsed under his boots. Dad, what's going on? Talk to me. Another breath, shaky and broken. Son, listen to me. Don't freak out. The tone, weak, thin, hit Logan harder than any explosion he'd ever faced. Victor Clark didn't sound like that. He was 60. But still bench-pressed more than men half his age. Still woke up at 0400 every morning because the world doesn't slow down for you, boy. You keep your pace. Hearing fear in his father's voice made the desert suddenly feel 10 degrees colder. Dad, Logan said, already walking away from the others, putting distance between them, what happened? There was a small groan, like Victor was trying not to let the pain through but failing. I'm at the hospital. Logan's heart thudded once hard. Hospital? Why? What happened to you? A pause. The longest 3 seconds of Logan's life. Something's wrong with my arm. Wrong how? Broken. Victor inhaled sharply, and Logan heard the tremor in it. Logan, it's bad. The world tunneled. Logan saw nothing but the darkness ahead. Broken? His father's arm? Victor once broke his own nose in a sparring match. Set it back into place with a grunt, and finished the fight. For him to sound like this, how? Logan demanded. Did you fall? Were you mugged? Is this medical or... He came to the house, Victor whispered. Logan froze mid-step. Who? A single bitter breath. Dominic. Clara's older brother. Logan felt the shift inside him, the kind he felt right before breaching a hostile compound. His shoulders tensed, his jaw locked. The desert wind seemed to fade away, replaced by the thudding of his pulse. Dad, tell me exactly what happened. Victor swallowed, the mic picking up the sound like a tremor. He showed up looking for money, said Clara told him, static cut in. Logan clenched his fist around the phone. Dad? The signal wavered back. Said Clara told him, I know where you keep your emergency funds. I told him no. Told him that wasn't my business, that he needed to talk to you. Logan's blood turned to ice. And then, he asked, his voice going flat, controlled. He got angry. Another groan slipped out. Victor tried covering it with a cough, but failed. I thought he'd calm down. I didn't think. His voice cracked. Logan, he grabbed me. Every muscle in Logan's body locked. He twisted, Victor said, voice fracturing, and I heard it break. I heard everything break. Logan closed his eyes hard, fighting the roaring in his ears. His father, his only family, someone had put their hands on him. On purpose. Dominic, Clara's brother. Why didn't you call the police? Logan demanded, voice tightening. I tried, Victor whispered, but he was still there. He kept shouting, telling me if I called anyone, he'd go to you next. Logan's breath stopped. Next. He scanned the desert instinctively for threats, training acting on autopilot. Dad, he said slowly, voice low. What do you mean, next? What did he say? Victor hesitated. Say it, Logan ordered. He said, Victor swallowed. He said he'd do worse to you. that if you came back, he'd make sure you wouldn't walk away from it. Logan didn't move for several seconds. His team's voices blurred behind him. His mind sharpened into a single line of purpose. And then he heard Victor's voice drop to a whisper, one that shattered Logan more than any detail so far. "Son, don't come home." Logan's heart clenched. "What?" "You heard me," Victor said, forcing the words out between shallow breaths. "Stay away. If he did this to me, just asking for money, he'll kill you if you show up. I can handle this. Stay out. Stay focused on your mission. You're safer where you are." Safer? On a Black Ops mission in hostile territory? The idea was so absurd Logan almost laughed. Instead, fury pressed against his ribs, cold and razor-edged. "No," Logan said softly. "Logan, I'm coming home." "No," Victor insisted weakly, desperation leaking into his tone. "Don't you dare." Dominic said I don't give a damn what he said, Logan snapped. "He put his hands on you. He broke your arm. That's all I need to know." Silence stretched across the connection, filled only by Victor's labored breathing. "Son," he whispered, "please just think." "I am thinking," Logan cut in, "and I've never been clearer." He turned back toward the camp, every step filled with controlled violence he couldn't yet release. He caught sight of his team, shadowy figures hunched around equipment under the moonlight. They looked up, sensing something had shifted. "I'm pulling out," Logan muttered to himself, the decision final the moment the words formed. Victor's voice cracked again. "Logan, don't, please, Dad." Logan's voice softened, but the steel beneath it remained. "I'm coming home." "Son," Dominic said, "you're next." "Good," Logan said, dialing command on his secondary device. "Then he won't be hard to find." He paused, hearing Victor choke on a breath. "Hold on," Logan said. "I'll be there soon." And with that, he ended the call and began the process to get home in 14 hours. Chapter 2, The Attack. Airports were supposed to smell like pretzels, coffee, and bad perfume. But as Logan pushed through the automatic doors of the hospital, all he smelled was antiseptic and fear. The kind that sinks into your clothes. The kind you don't forget. He didn't stop at the reception desk. He didn't wait for directions. He walked like a man who already knew exactly where to go. A nurse tried to stop him. "Sir, you can't just—" "Room number," Logan said without slowing down, voice low, controlled, lethal. She froze for 1 second, intimidated by the aura rolling off him, then stammered, "Room 224. Down that hall." Logan was already gone. Every step echoed, boots hitting linoleum like distant thunder. His hands were clenched but steady. His face calm, but his chest burned like molten metal. He turned into the room, and the world narrowed to a single sight. Victor. His father lay in a hospital bed, pale, drenched in sweat, a thick cast wrapped around his entire arm from shoulder to wrist. And the arm itself, what was left visible, was grotesquely swollen, colors shifting from purple to black. The skin was misshapen, uneven, bulging in places bones should never be. Logan froze mid-step. He had seen bodies torn apart by IEDs, limbs twisted by explosions, soldiers mangled by shrapnel. But this was his father, the man who taught him to tie his boots, the man who never missed a single school event, a single graduation, a single deployment send-off. Seeing him like this made something ancient and violent stir in Logan's chest. Victor looked up, eyes hazy with pain meds, but when he saw his son, they cleared for a moment. "Hey," Victor rasped. "You always did show up too damn fast." Logan stepped closer. "Dad, what did he do to you?" Victor exhaled slowly, looking ashamed, like he had failed, even though he was the victim. "Help me sit up a bit," he murmured. Logan adjusted the bed, lifting his father slightly. Victor winced, but didn't complain. A doctor walked in at that moment, a tired-looking man in his 40s holding a tablet. "You must be Logan Clark?" Logan didn't look away from his father. "Explain." The doctor cleared his throat. "Your father suffered multiple fractures in the humerus, ulna, and radius. Severe twisting force caused spiral fractures, essentially corkscrewing the bone until it broke in multiple places." Victor flinched at the description. Logan's jaw twitched. "Will he recover?" Logan asked, voice flat. The doctor hesitated. He'll regain function, but full recovery may not be possible. He may never have the same strength or full mobility. Logan slowly turned his head toward the doctor. Are you saying someone twisted his arm until it shattered? The doctor swallowed hard. Yes, this wasn't a fall. This wasn't an accident. Someone exerted deliberate, prolonged torque. It's brutal. Brutal hardly covered it. It was torture. The doctor left quietly, sensing he'd said enough. For a full minute, Logan didn't speak. The rage inside him didn't explode. It condensed hard, sharp, like a blade being forged. Finally, he asked, "Tell me everything." Victor closed his eyes as if the memory itself hurt as much as the injury. "He came looking for money," he whispered. "Dominic," Logan said, but it wasn't a question. Victor nodded once. He said Clara owed him, owed his family, owed for debts. "I tried calling you, but you were deployed. He said you weren't picking up fast enough." Logan's pulse hammered, but he kept his breathing steady. "He asked if I knew where you kept your emergency cash stash," Victor continued. "I told him no, because it's not my place, and it's none of his business." He didn't like that answer. Logan moved closer, resting a hand carefully near his father's uninjured shoulder. "What did he do, Dad?" Victor's voice cracked. "He grabbed me." Logan closed his eyes, just once, because if he didn't, he might put his fist through a wall. "I told him to leave," Victor whispered. "Told him to get out of my house before things got worse. But he stepped closer, saying you owed him. Saying Clara promised you'd pay." A humorless, broken sound escaped Victor, half a laugh, half a sob. "I'm 60, he murmured. "I'm strong for my age, but he's a damn bulldozer." Before I could react, he clamped down on my arm. Victor lifted his good hand, showing the spot near his elbow. "He twisted," Victor said, looking sick. "Hard," and kept twisting. I felt the bone go. Heard it, like breaking branches. All of them, one after another. Logan's throat tightened. "Dad," Victor blinked rapidly, fighting tears. I screamed. I couldn't help it. Haven't screamed like that since combat. He gave a brittle smile. "Guess I'm not as tough as I used to be." "You survived raising me," Logan said quietly. "That already made you tougher than most." Victor's mouth twitched in a faint smile that vanished as quickly as it had come. "He leaned in after breaking it," Victor murmured. "Said next time he'd break my neck if I didn't pay up." Then he said, Victor shook his head, a tremor of fear passing through him. "He said you were next." Logan felt the temperature in his veins drop. Not heat. Cold. Deadly, controlled cold. The same cold he felt before taking down hostile guards. Before breaching explosives. Before stepping into a kill zone. Victor saw the shift and put his good hand on Logan's forearm. "Son," he whispered, "don't do anything stupid. Please." Logan looked into his father's eyes. Eyes that had seen decades of service, sacrifice, and hardship, and he spoke softly, with a calm that was almost frightening. "I'm not doing anything stupid," he said. "I'm doing what needs to be done." Victor exhaled shakily, a defeated sound. Logan straightened, his posture sharp, military precise. His face went blank, unreadable cold. Dominic hadn't just hurt his father. He'd crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. And Logan's rage didn't flare hot like fire. It settled deep, hard, icy. A soldier's rage, a son's rage. Victor whispered, eyes watering, "Logan, please." But Logan didn't respond. He didn't have to. His father could already see it etched in his expression, in the way his jaw was set, in the way his hands were no longer trembling. Something inside Logan had gone silent. Something deadly. Something that didn't forgive. Chapter 3, Clara's Confession. The door to the hospital room slammed open so hard the hinges rattled. "Logan!" Clara's voice cracked through the quiet like a whip. She stumbled inside, hair a mess, mascara streaked down her face, breathing fast like she'd sprinted from the parking lot. Her hands shook as she clutched her purse, eyes darting between Logan and the sight of Victor lying in the bed. "Oh my God!" she choked, stumbling forward. "Oh my God, Victor, what happened? Who did this to you?" Victor's gaze slipped away. Logan didn't answer her question. He simply straightened slowly from where he'd been standing beside the bed, his shadow stretching across the floor. Clara's eyes locked onto him. "Logan, I I came as soon as I heard, she babbled. I didn't know it was this bad. No one told me. If I had known, stop, Logan said quietly. Clara froze mid-breath. Logan stepped closer, one slow, controlled step at a time. His face was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm Clara had seen in him only once before, when a guy tried grabbing her at a bar 2 years ago. Logan hadn't even touched the man. He just looked at him the same way he was looking at her now, like he was stripping the truth clean from her bones. What Logan said, shoulders square, voice low. Did you tell Dominic? Clara blinked. What do you mean? One more lie, Logan warned, and we're done talking. Clara's eyes filled instantly with tears. Logan, I swear I didn't He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. She let out a stuttering breath, shoulders collapsing. I may have told him where Dad lives. Victor let out a quiet, pained sigh. Logan didn't move. Why? Logan asked, would you do that? Clara looked at him as if begging for him to supply the answer himself. When he didn't, she swallowed hard. Dominic, he just wanted to talk to your dad. That's all. I thought he'd scare him a little. You know how my brother is. He gets dramatic. He exaggerates. Logan stared at her, the silence so thick it made her tremble. Scare him, Logan repeated, voice flat. A 60-year-old man. My father. I didn't think he'd touch him, she cried. Dominic said he just needed to get your attention. He said you were ignoring him, and he needed you to pick up. He said your dad would tell you. Scaring an old man is how he gets my attention. Logan cut in sharply. Clara's lip trembled. I thought it was harmless. I didn't know he'd actually hurt him. I swear I didn't. Victor looked away again, jaw tightening with shame and pain. Logan folded his arms over his chest. You didn't know? Or you didn't care? Her eyes shot wide. What? How can you even say that? Of course I care. Then why? Logan asked evenly. Did you tell him where my father lives? Clara opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again, struggling. He needed money, she whispered finally. He said he needed it immediately. That was my fault. I messed things up. Logan narrowed his eyes. What did you mess up? She flinched. Hard. Nothing. Just Clara. The warning in his tone broke whatever flimsy composure she had left. She burst into tears, hands covering her face, shoulders shaking violently. I borrowed money, she sobbed. I borrowed money for Dominic. I didn't tell you because you'd be mad at him and you'd be mad at me, and I didn't know how to explain it. He lost it. He gambled it. He promised he'd pay me back, and then he said he'd lose his legs if he didn't pay it back in 2 days. Logan felt something deep inside him sink and settle cold. You used my money, he said, not accusing, not angry, just stating the fact. You used me. For him. Clara's sobbing intensified. I didn't mean to use you. I didn't have anyone else. Logan stared at her for a long, brutal moment. Why not just ask me, he said quietly. Because you'd say no, she blurted out. Logan's jaw tightened. So you lied instead. I didn't lie, Clara exclaimed. I just didn't tell you everything. That, Logan said, is a lie. She pressed her hands to her head, shaking. Logan, please don't look at me like that. I didn't know what to do. Dominic said if I didn't tell him where your dad lived, he'd go after you. I was scared. I panicked. You panicked, Logan repeated, voice like ice. So you gave a violent man my father's address. Clara sobbed harder. I didn't think he'd really hurt him. I swear on my life, Logan. I thought he'd yell a little, make some threats, maybe scare him into telling you to call Dominic. You thought using my father was easier than being honest with me. Clara covered her face again. Please don't say it like that. Victor shifted painfully in the bed. Clara, he murmured, you put me in danger. You put him in danger. Clara turned to Victor desperately. I thought I was helping. Dominic said he'd fix everything if you just betrayed us both, Logan said quietly. She froze. Her eyes snapped toward Logan, wide, horrified. No, I didn't betray you. Logan, you're twisting this. Logan laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Only disbelief. Clara, my father's arm is broken in 4 places because of a man you sent to his door. Clara stumbled back like he'd struck her. Please, she whispered, voice hollow, don't don't call the police. Please don't do that. You don't understand what Dominic's dealing with. You'll ruin everything. Logan didn't blink. Dominic ruined everything. No, she insisted desperately, grabbing his arm. No, Logan, please. It was a mistake. A stupid mistake. But you love me. We can fix this. Just don't go to the police. Don't press charges. Dominic will calm down once he knows we're not escalating. He slowly pulled his arm from her grip. Clara froze. Logan, she whispered, voice trembling. He looked at her the way a soldier looks at someone who's already dead. Emotionless. Cold. Done. It's over, Logan said. Her mouth fell open. What? This relationship, he clarified. Us. All of it. It ends here. Her hand dropped to her side. Tears streamed silently down her face. Logan, you don't mean that. I do. Please, she begged. I made a mistake. You made a choice, Logan corrected. And I'm making mine. Clara shook her head violently, stumbling backward toward the door as if the room itself was rejecting her. Logan, please don't do this. Logan didn't answer. He didn't have to. The moment was already finished. The relationship was already dead. Chapter 4, the investigation begins. Logan had always believed that fury was loud, a wildfire of emotion that screamed through the body. But now, sitting at the kitchen table across from Mason Hale, he realized true fury was quiet, tight, surgical, like the silence right before an explosion. Mason leaned back in the chair, tapping his knuckle lightly against a folder thick with printouts. He hadn't changed much since their years in special forces together. Same square jaw, same casual calm, same eyes that had seen too much. Only now his uniform was a battered leather jacket and a private investigator's license clipped inside his wallet. You sure you want a full file? Mason asked, sliding the folder halfway across the table, but keeping one hand resting on it. Some of this is ugly. Ugly is fine, Logan replied, voice even. I need the truth. Mason's lips quirked. Yeah, that's what I figured. He finally pushed the folder to Logan. Inside were printouts, arrest sheets, photographs, bar security stills. Logan flipped them slowly, page by page, committing every detail to memory with military discipline. Dominic Reed. Mason began, resting his elbows on the table. Age 32. Prior assaults. 2 bar fights. 1 domestic disturbance. Charges dropped every time because witnesses backed out. Intimidation. Logan asked. Yep. And arrogance. Mason added. Guy talks big. There are bartenders around the north side who say he brags about breaking bones for fun. He's not just violent, he likes people to know he's violent. Logan stared at one of the photos, Dominic in a grainy camera still, leaning over a pool table, laughing with a beer in hand. A predator grin. Casual. Unafraid. Tell me about Clara, Logan said quietly. Mason hesitated. You're sure? Give me everything. Mason sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose before sliding a second stack of papers over. Money trail, he said. Her credit cards, the transfers, the cash withdrawals. She wasn't just paying Dominic's gambling debts, Logan. She was feeding him. Constantly. Logan read through the bank statements, line after line. Hotel rooms, bar tabs, Cash App transfers to a second name he didn't recognize until Mason said, That's Dominic's burner account. Logan felt his jaw tighten. She told me she was saving for nursing school. I know, Mason said, sympathetic but firm. She wasn't. He flipped another page. More receipts. More lies. She used you, Mason added softly. A lot of people do that to good men. I'm not a good man, Logan said, his voice steady. I'm a focused man, and now I'm focused on him. Mason didn't argue. He'd seen that tone before, on missions, right before a door breach. You gathering everything for the police? Mason asked. Yes. Logan opened his laptop and began transferring files, labeling each one meticulously. Victor's medical documents scanned. The audio of their last call uploaded. Hospital photos of the twisted arm, time-stamped. Clara's texts asking for money for emergencies, saved. The bank statements Mason uncovered, sorted. Every piece of truth, every shattered illusion, organized with the precision of a mission dossier. Mason watched for a while. I'll dig into Dominic's movements last week, he said. See who else he bragged to. If we get witnesses, we will, Logan said. And if Harper doesn't move fast enough, she will, Logan replied. She's one of the good ones. He hoped. Detective Jordan Harper met them at the precinct that afternoon. She was mid-30s, sharp-eyed, hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. Logan liked her immediately, not because she smiled, but because she didn't. She studied people the way operators did, evaluating threat, motive, stability. Logan, she said, shaking his hand firmly. Mason said you wanted to file a formal report. I have evidence, Logan replied, holding up a flash drive. Harper gestured them into an interview room. Bare, fluorescent-lit, cold. The kind of room where truth felt heavier. Let's start with the assault itself, Harper said, clicking a pen open. Tell me what happened to your father. Logan inhaled once, centering himself. Dominic Reed came to my father's house to collect money Clara owed him, Logan said. My father told him I wasn't home. Dominic grabbed him, twisted his arm until it shattered. Harper scribbled notes. And your father confirmed this to you? He did. Logan slid his phone across the table. This is a recording of his statement. He gave it to me last night. Harper plugged in the phone and listened. Victor's voice, weak, pained, humiliated, filled the room. He grabbed me, Logan. He twisted. I heard it snap. Dominic said you're next. Harper's hand paused on the notepad. For 2 full seconds, she didn't write. Then she said, that's enough for probable cause on assault with intent to maim. Logan nodded once. Harper continued. You mentioned financial extortion tied to Clara. I brought the documentation. Logan slid a folder across the table. Bank transfers. Messages. Statements from Mason's investigation. She opened the folder, skimming the pages. Her brow furrowed deeper with each line. This is substantial, she admitted. Frankly, more complete than what most private investigators provide. Military habit, Logan said. I can see that, she replied, a faint hint of respect in her voice. Harper flipped another page. These messages from Clara show knowledge of Dominic's activities. She told him where my father lived, Logan said. She admitted that to me directly. Do you have that recorded? Yes. He handed her the second audio file, Clara's voice frantic, guilty, panicked. I thought he'd only scare him a little, Logan. I swear. I didn't think he'd. He said he just needed leverage. Don't go to the police, please. Harper exhaled slowly. That puts her directly in the chain. Accessory to assault. Possibly conspiracy. Charge her with whatever is lawful, Logan said evenly. I'm not offering mercy. Harper nodded. Understood. She pushed back from the table and stood. I'm preparing the warrant application. With what you've provided, the judge should approve it quickly. Mason grinned at Logan. Told you Harper was sharp. Sharp isn't enough, Logan said quietly. I need thorough. Harper turned, already gathering documents. Don't worry, she said. I'm not half-assing this. From what I've seen, your father deserves full justice. Logan nodded, once in appreciation. She opened the door. Sit tight. I'll be back after I submit the request. And just like that, Detective Harper stepped out, closing the heavy metal door behind her, leaving Logan and Mason alone with the cold fluorescent lights and the beginning of something irreversible. Chapter 5, Setting the Trap. Logan had staged the apartment with the same precision he once used preparing safe houses overseas. Minimal clutter, clear lines of sight, everything placed intentionally, every variable accounted for. 2 cameras were mounted openly, one above the bookshelf, the other near the kitchen archway, visible enough that no one could claim ignorance later. The microphones were paired to them, their soft red LEDs glowing steadily. This wasn't an ambush. It was documentation. He checked his phone. 5:58 p.m. Clara would be on time. Panic made her punctual. Dominic would be late. Ego made him predictable. Logan stood in the center of the living room, hands in his pockets, expression relaxed. Calm, neutral, not masking emotion, simply operating without it. A knock. Rapid, shaky. Clara. He opened the door to her already teary face. She wore a thin sweater and makeup that looked hastily applied, eyes swollen from crying. The moment she saw him, she flinched like she expected him to slam the door in her face. Logan, thank you for letting me come, she whispered. You're here to talk, Logan said. That's all. She stepped inside, hugging herself. Her eyes immediately darted toward the cameras. You're recording us? Yes. She let out a small breath through her nose, half shock, half acceptance. She didn't protest. Of course she didn't. She'd been caught in too many lies to challenge evidence now. Dominic's on his way, she said quietly. He said he wants to clear things up. Logan's eyebrow barely lifted. Does he? Before she could respond, a heavy knock rattled the door. Clara jumped. Logan didn't move. He opened the door. Dominic Reed walked in like he owned the place. Hoodie, jeans, smug grin, eyes full of casual cruelty. He didn't acknowledge Logan first. He smirked at Clara, kissed her cheek, then finally turned to Logan. Damn, Dominic said. Soldier boy's actually home. Logan closed the door quietly. Dominic's eyes flicked to the cameras. What's this? A reality show? Transparency, Logan replied. Dominic laughed. Man, you really are military. Everything by the book. He dropped onto the couch, sprawling like a king on a throne. Clara stood behind him, wringing her hands, whispering, Dom, just be careful what you say. I'll say whatever the hell I want. Dominic snapped without looking at her. Then he turned to Logan again. So, you said you wanted to talk. Logan took a seat opposite him. I want to hear your side. Dominic brightened, puffing up. My side? Easy. Your old man should have minded his business. Logan didn't blink. Victor's business was his own home. Dominic shrugged. Yeah, well, he shouldn't open his mouth if he can't handle the consequences. Clara's breath hitched. Dom, stop, relax, Dominic scoffed. It's not like he's dead. He grinned widely. Though you should have seen his face when I twisted that arm. Old bones crack loud, man. Clara squeezed her eyes shut. Logan stayed perfectly still. What did you just say? Logan asked softly. That I broke his arm, Dominic said loudly, gesturing toward the kitchen. Cameras catch that? Good. Use it for your little soldier scrapbook. Logan's pulse didn't change. And why did you do it? Because he owed me money, Dominic said, sticking his chin out. Well, technically Clara owed me, but she's your girl, right? I thought the family discount applied. Clara whispered, Dom, please. Dominic ignored her. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. Tell you what, he said. We can make a deal. A deal, Logan repeated. Yeah. Dominic spread his arms. Give me 10 grand, and I'll forget your dad mouthed off. Settlements, man. Happens all the time. Logan stared at him like he was studying a specimen under glass. You assaulted a 68-year-old man. He should have paid, Dominic snapped. You think I just do charity work? And now you're demanding more. I'm offering you a discount before lawyers get involved, Dominic said smugly. You want peace or not? Logan nodded slowly. I see. Dominic relaxed further, mistaking the calm for surrender. Clara wiped her eyes, stepping closer. Logan, please, he didn't mean, he just gets angry. What I get, Dominic said, standing abruptly, is tired of being interrogated. Logan didn't move. Sit down. Dominic snorted. You don't give orders here. He stalked forward, chest puffed, shoulders squared, a bar bully in full display. He jabbed a finger toward Logan's face. You think because you were overseas, you're scary? You're nothing here, man. This is my turf. Clara whispered urgently, Dom, stop, just stop. But Dominic's ego was already spiraling. You want me to say it again? Dominic shouted. Fine. I broke his arm. I'd do it again. And you? He shoved Logan hard in the chest. Logan didn't step back. Dominic blinked, thrown off by the lack of reaction. Then he cocked his arm back and swung. Logan moved, not with violence, not with rage, with precision. He sidestepped, caught Dominic's wrist, redirected the momentum, and pinned his arm behind his back in one smooth, economical motion. Dominic grunted, shocked. What the let go? Logan didn't tighten the hold. He didn't strike, didn't twist, didn't retaliate. He simply restrained him, holding Dominic's arm immobile like it was a misbehaving child. You attacked me in my home, Logan said quietly. Dominic struggled, face reddening. Fight me like a man. I'm not fighting you, Logan replied. I'm documenting you. The cameras blinked red. Clara dropped to her knees, sobbing. Logan, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know he'd go this far, Dom. Stop fighting, please. Just stop, Dominic thrashed. Logan didn't budge. Let go of me, you psycho. Dominic yelled. You came here, Logan said. You admitted the assault. You demanded money. You attacked me. Clara's voice broke into hysterical panic. He did it. He told Dominic where Victor lived. I told him everything. I didn't know he'd hurt him. Please, Logan, please. Dominic froze at her confession, just long enough for Logan to guide him down to his knees, controlled, restrained, unharmed. Logan said nothing else. He didn't need to. The cameras had caught everything, and the noose was tightening. Chapter 6, The Threat That Seals It. Dominic stormed out of Logan's apartment with a string of curses, shaking off Clara's attempts to grab his arm. The hallway shook with the force of the slam when he kicked the door shut behind him. His footsteps pounded down the stairs like he was trying to break each step on the way out. Clara stayed behind for a moment, crying into her palms, whispering apologies. Logan didn't answer. He stood silently, arms folded, waiting. Eventually, she backed out too, her voice cracking. Logan, please don't do anything crazy. Just think it through. I already have, Logan replied. She left with a final sob. The apartment fell quiet, save for the faint hum of the cameras still recording. Logan didn't touch them yet. Evidence would be pulled later. He sat on the couch, breathing slow, controlled. His heart wasn't racing. No adrenaline high. This wasn't a battlefield. It was simply procedure. His phone buzzed. An incoming text. From an unknown number, but Logan didn't need a guess. Dominic had probably stolen someone's phone or purchased a burner. Subtlety wasn't his skill set. The message was short. You're dead. Logan exhaled through his nose. Not a sigh, an acknowledgement, like a pilot marking a reading on a dashboard. Threat issued, log confirmed. Another buzz hit his screen. Clara's name this time. Please don't be mad. Please don't turn this into something worse. Logan didn't respond. Instead, he forwarded Dominic's message directly to Detective Harper with a single line. Threat on record. Harper replied in less than 60 seconds. On my way. Warrant goes in tonight. Logan set the phone down and powered off the cameras. Their digital files were already backed up to 3 separate encrypted drives. Redundancy was survival in war and in legal warfare. Detective Harper met him outside the apartment within 20 minutes. Fast, even for her. She stepped out of the unmarked sedan, jacket swaying, hair still damp from a rush shower. She looked at Logan with firm eyes, the kind of look cops reserve for cases where everything finally fell into place. You weren't kidding, she said, holding up her phone. This threat puts the nail in the coffin. Logan nodded. I assumed it would. Harper didn't hide her satisfaction. Judge signed the warrant the moment I filed the affidavit. Assault with intent, extortion, intimidation of a witness, criminal threats. This is airtight. Logan opened the passenger door for her. She didn't get in, just leaned against it with crossed arms. You sure you're okay? She asked quietly. I'm fine. You don't have to be made of stone, you know. Stone doesn't break, Logan replied. Harper sighed, but didn't push. We'll go get him now. You'll get a formal notice when he's processed. Logan watched them drive off with calm, steady eyes. He didn't smile, didn't gloat. He simply waited. The arrest happened the same night. Dominic was picked up in the parking lot behind some dingy late-night bar. Witnesses later said he threw a fit, tried to run, and screamed that it was all a setup. The officers handled him with the same professional patience Logan had shown earlier, except they didn't have to stay quite as gentle. By morning, Dominic was booked. By noon, Logan received confirmation. Bail set at $50,000. Harper forwarded the update along with a note. Family can't pay. He stays. Logan sent back a single word. Understood. He didn't celebrate. He didn't cheer. He took a long sip of coffee in his dim kitchen and stared out the window at the street below. Cars passed. Life continued. The world didn't shift just because justice finally started moving. His phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't Harper. It wasn't Dominic. It was Clara. Logan's workplace, a security firm, was filled with the usual hum of white noise, keyboards clicking, radios chirping. His co-workers didn't crowd him, even though they knew something was happening. Logan wasn't the type you interrogated. You gave him space. That morning, the receptionist approached him with a tight expression. Logan, your ex is here. He didn't even look up from his monitor. Which one? The one from the hospital. Clara. And she wasn't alone. By the time Logan stepped into the lobby, Clara and her mother were already standing near the front desk. Clara's eyes were swollen and red. Her mother, a woman with the kind of brittle posture that suggested a lifetime of emotional storms, looked equally distraught. The moment they saw Logan, they both sprang into pleading mode. Logan, please, Clara's mother started. You have to understand, Dominic isn't a bad person. He assaulted my father, Logan said evenly. Clara wrung her hands. I swear if you just talk to us first. I did talk, Logan replied. Both of you lied. Her mother stepped closer, voice cracking. He'll lose everything. Logan's expression didn't shift. He made that choice, not me. Clara grabbed his forearm. Logan, please, we're begging you. Don't let them lock him up. He panicked. He didn't know what he was doing. He knew exactly what he was doing. Clara's desperation grew frantic. If you drop the charges, we can fix this. We can compensate you. Logan cut her off. I'm not negotiating with the people who orchestrated an attack on my father. Her mother gasped as if she'd been slapped. Clara teared up harder. Do you hate me now? Clara whispered. No, Logan said. I don't hate you. I just don't trust you. That hurt her more than any insult could have. But then something inside her snapped, twisted by fear and humiliation. She straightened sharply, eyes narrowing into something sharper. Fine, she spat. If you won't help, I'll make sure everyone hears what kind of man you really are. Logan raised an eyebrow. You're threatening me. I'm warning you, she hissed. People believe victims. They'll listen to me. Logan stepped closer, voice low and controlled. If you fabricate a single accusation, I will add defamation and harassment to the case file. And unlike Dominic, I have evidence for everything I do. For the first time, Clara froze. Her mother paled. Logan didn't raise his voice, didn't break posture. He simply delivered the truth. If you want to salvage anything left of your life, he said quietly, walk away. And finally they did. Clara broke down, crying in the parking lot as her mother guided her back to the car. Logan watched them leave without a flicker of emotion. Behind him, the receptionist whispered, You okay? Yes, Logan said. Everything is exactly where it needs to be. Chapter 7. Preparing for War, the trial build-up. The weeks that followed felt less like time passing and more like a war campaign gathering momentum. Every day had a mission. Every hour had a purpose. Logan treated the legal process exactly the way he treated a military operation. Collect intel, secure allies, prepare the battlefield, and eliminate uncertainty. No emotion, no hesitation, just discipline. 1. Building the case. Logan's lawyer, Rebecca Cho, was a sharp, relentless woman with a voice soft enough to disarm you and a mind sharp enough to tear you apart. She spread folders across her conference table as she spoke. Logan, what you've already collected gives us a strong foundation, she said, flipping through printed screenshots of Dominic's texts, including the death threat. Then the photos of Victor's swollen, twisted arm. Then the medical imaging. But we need to prepare for the defense, trying to spin this. Logan nodded. Spin what? That Victor provoked him, she said. Or that it was accidental. Or that Dominic was intoxicated and didn't mean to twist with force. He meant every inch of force, Logan said. Cho smiled faintly. I agree. But we don't win because we believe it. We win because we prove it. She slid another folder his way. This is where Mason comes in. 2. Mason gets to work. Mason always worked with a quiet, wolf-like professionalism. When Logan met him at the diner, a small, half-empty place with flickering lights, Mason already had a manila envelope waiting on the table. Logan. He nodded once. I've got your boy. Logan took a seat. What did you find? Mason slid the envelope across. Inside were printed statements, audio files on a USB, screenshots of social media posts, and written declarations signed under penalty of perjury. Dominic's a talker, Mason said, sipping his coffee. After he cracked your father's arm, he bragged about it all over town. Told a bartender he folded an old man like laundry. Told a coworker he showed that pensioner some real power. And at a pool hall, he reenacted the twist. Logan's eyes went cold. Reenacted. Grabbing a pool cue. Mason confirmed. Pretending it was a forearm. Several witnesses saw. Logan took a slow breath, controlled tight. Not rage. Focus. Mason leaned forward. I spoke to 7 people. 4 agreed to testify. 3 gave written statements. 2 gave audio consent. And the others? Mason shrugged. They don't want to get dragged into legal stuff, but their names and accounts are recorded. If we need subpoenas later, Cho can request them. Logan nodded. Good work. You paying me? Mason replied dryly. Good work is the job. But his eyes softened for a moment. How's Victor? Logan exhaled through his nose. Trying. Hurts. Mason said simply. Yeah. That's why we're doing this. Mason reminded him. So this never happens again. Logan didn't respond aloud, but he didn't need to. 3. The medical front. Victor's doctors were cooperative but clinical until Cho arranged a meeting between Logan, the lead orthopedic surgeon, and a specialist in reconstructive trauma. They sat in a brightly lit room, X-rays glowing on the backlit monitor. Victor's arm looked like a shattered tree branch. The orthopedic surgeon tapped the screen with a pen. This fracture pattern is consistent with rotational force. Severe sustained twisting. The specialist added, this wasn't a fall. It wasn't a stumble. It required deliberate torque. Deliberate. The word burned. Logan kept his voice even. How deliberate? The specialist adjusted the glasses on her nose. Enough that if the force continued for another second or 2, the humerus would have ruptured skin. That means the perpetrator didn't lose control or stop instinctively. They stopped because they chose to. Logan swallowed tightly. And the long-term damage? He asked. We have Victor in rehab, the surgeon said. But realistically, he may never regain more than partial rotation or grip strength. Logan sat there, boots planted firmly on the floor, jaw locked. And you're willing to testify to this? Cho asked. Both doctors nodded. This is textbook assault with malicious force, the specialist confirmed. I'll say that under oath. Cho smiled like a general watching artillery arrive. Perfect. 4. Victor's painful road back. Logan visited his father every morning before work and every evening after. Victor's apartment smelled faintly of antiseptic and coffee, the 2 scents blending oddly, but becoming part of their new reality. Victor sat at the dining table, his cast removed now, replaced with a rigid brace and thick straps. A physical therapy pamphlet lay open beside him, though he never touched it until Logan encouraged him. Ready? Logan asked gently. Victor grunted. Ready as I'll ever be. Logan helped him out of the chair, walking him to the small, cleared space in the living room. A soft mat lay on the floor, along with the resistance bands the therapist had ordered. Victor lifted his arm an inch. He winced instantly. Logan stayed beside him, but never grabbed him without permission. Slow. Breath first. Victor inhaled shakily. Then again. Then he lifted his arm another inch. A sharp hiss escaped him. His face twisted in pain. Dad, I've got it. Victor snapped, more at the pain than at Logan. Logan nodded, staying supportive but quiet. Victor trembled as he moved the arm again, this time trying to rotate it slightly. He barely rotated 5 degrees before groaning, God damn it. He let his arm fall, grabbing onto Logan's shoulder for balance. I'm sorry, Victor muttered. You don't apologize for healing, Logan said softly. Victor looked at him. You're doing all this, building the case, proving everything. But I don't want you thinking you have to fix me. I'm not fixing you, Logan replied. I'm making sure he pays for what he chose to do. Victor swallowed, eyes softening. You always were the stubborn one. Logan smirked faintly. I learned from the best. They continued the exercises, Victor trembling, sweating, cursing, pushing through microscopic improvements that felt like miles. Watching his father fight against pain fueled Logan in a way nothing else could. Every wince, every strained breath, every small victory hardened his resolve. This wasn't revenge. This was duty. 5. The final push before trial. As the weeks stacked up, evidence piled higher. Audio files, statements, photos, medical reports, police logs, surveillance footage, printed texts, timestamps. Cho had it all arranged in organized binders. "One thing's clear," she told Logan in her office. "We're not walking into a trial blind." Logan crossed his arms. "Good." She looked up at him. "You're driving this case harder than most victims' families." "What?" Logan thought of Victor's wince during rehab, the tremble in the hand that used to lift him as a kid, the quiet grit his father always carried. "Because he deserves justice," Logan said. "And that," Cho replied, "is exactly what we're building." Chapter 8, Courtroom Firestorm. The courthouse buzzed with a kind of electricity that felt thick enough to taste fear, anticipation, anger, and the quiet hum of 20 lives colliding with the truth. Logan walked through the entrance with the steady stride of a soldier who had seen worse battlefields, but still felt the weight of this one. This wasn't some foreign desert or insurgent compound. This was his father's pain, his former lover's betrayal, and a monster's arrogance, all converging under fluorescent lights. Victor walked beside him slowly, his sling showing the jagged outline of an arm that might never work the same again. Each step made him wince, but he held his chin high. "You got this, son," Victor murmured. Logan put a steadying hand on Victor's shoulder. "We both do." Inside, Dominic sat at the defense table like he belonged there, leaning back, jaw tight, eyes sharp with performative innocence. His mother rubbed his back, whispering prayers. Clara sat on the opposite side of the aisle, twisting tissues between her fingers as if wringing water out of guilt. Judge Riggs entered, stern and unmoving. This court is now in session. The trial began with the prosecutor, Jensen, stepping forward. "Ladies and gentlemen of a jury, this case is simple. Victor Hale was attacked, brutalized, and left with life-changing injuries because the defendant, Dominic Kerr, believed violence was his right. Today you will hear exactly how far he went." Dominic's attorney countered with polished confidence. "My client was defending himself. Victor Hale fell. Accidents happen. The so-called confession is a manipulated conversation meant to frame him." Logan's jaw flexed, but he stayed still. The medical firestorm. The first witnesses were the orthopedic surgeons. Dr. Leland, a tall man with silver hair, approached the stand. "Dr. Leland," Jensen began, "described the injuries." The doctor placed X-rays on the display monitor. The image of Victor's arm looked like shattered glass. "These fractures," the doctor said, pointing, "are spiral fractures. They require rotational force. In simpler terms, someone twisted his arm. Hard. This was not a fall." Dominic shifted, jaw clenching. "And the likelihood of full recovery?" Jensen asked. "Maybe partial, but full? Very unlikely." Victor's breathing hitched. Logan laid a steady hand on his father's knee. "And the force required?" Jensen pressed. "Extreme force. Intentional. Someone meant to break this man." Murmurs rippled across the courtroom. The recordings. Next came the moment Logan had been waiting for. Jensen pressed play. Dominic's voice filled the courtroom, smug, loud, unedited. "Old man shouldn't talk back. I twisted that twig of an arm until it sounded like snapping firewood." Gasps echoed. Then Clara's voice, shaky. "Please, please stop. Logan will know." Dominic laughed on the recording. "Let him. The soldier boy thinks he's scary. I'll deal with him too." Logan watched Dominic's face drain of color. His attorney sank a little lower into his chair. Then came the sound of Dominic charging at Logan, and Logan restraining him with calm, dangerous precision. No aggression, no violence, just control. It played like a damning documentary of Dominic's own making. When the recording ended, the courtroom was silent. Judge Riggs turned to the defense. "Your client care to dispute the authenticity?" The attorney swallowed. "No, Your Honor." The barroom bragging. Mason was next, wearing a clean suit, but carrying the same old force of nature presence he'd always had. "You investigated Dominic Kerr's activities?" "Yes," Mason said. "And he has a habit of bragging." Jensen nodded. "Who heard these brags?" Mason motioned, and Jensen called 3 separate witnesses. All local bar regulars. Each testified, in slightly different wording, but the same truth. He laughed about twisting that old man's arm. He said he enjoyed the crunch. He bragged he wasn't afraid of the victim's military son. Every sentence landed like another nail in Dominic's coffin. Dominic's mother sobbed quietly. Victor takes the stand. Victor stood slowly. Even the jury noticed how he held his arm like fragile glass. Jensen approached. "Mr. Hale, can you describe what happened?" Victor took a breath, steady but tremulous. "I opened the door because Clara said Dominic needed to talk. I figured he might be troubled. I didn't expect." His voice broke. Logan clenched his fists under the table. "I told him I didn't have money," Victor whispered. "And he grabbed me. Before I could move, he twisted my arm. And I heard it break." Some jurors looked away, sickened. "How did it feel?" Jensen asked softly. "Like fire. Like my arm was being ripped off my body. And when I fell, he stepped over me." Dominic stared at the floor. Victor met the jury's eyes. "No one deserves that." Even the judge paused, giving Victor a quiet nod of respect. Clara's breaking point. Clara was called last. Her legs trembled as she walked to the stand. Dominic glared at her. His attorney stiffened. But Clara didn't look at either of them. She only looked at Logan. Jensen spoke. "Clara, would you like to tell the court what part you played?" Clara began crying the moment she opened her mouth. I didn't mean for." She wiped her eyes. "Logan, I'm so sorry." "Please answer the question," Jensen said gently. She inhaled shakily. "Dominic asked me where Victor lived. I thought he just wanted to scare him. I didn't think he would." Her voice cracked. "But I knew Dominic was angry. I knew he owed money. I knew he blamed Victor for the money Logan gave me." Logan's jaw tightened. "Why didn't you warn Victor?" Jensen asked. "Because I was scared," Clara whispered. "And stupid. And selfish. I never thought he would get hurt this badly." Dominic slammed his fist on the defense table. "You lying enough?" Judge Riggs thundered. But the damage was done. Clara's confession sealed everything. The verdict. The jury deliberated for just 40 minutes. When they returned, the foreman stood. "We find the defendant, Dominic Kerr, guilty on all counts." Clara sobbed. Victor exhaled in quiet relief. Dominic's face twisted in disbelief as officers reached for him. And Logan closed his eyes once. Justice finally had landed. Chapter 9. Sentencing and Civil Judgment. The courthouse was quieter this morning than during the trial. The tension had shifted from uncertainty to consequence. Logan walked in with Victor beside him, arm in brace, but spirits cautiously high. Dominic Kerr was already seated at the defendant's table, flanked by his attorney and two uniformed officers, a smugness now replaced by an uneasy tension that hadn't yet reached fear. Judge Riggs entered, robes swishing, face unreadable. She nodded to the court and began. "Dominic Kerr, having been found guilty on all counts of assault, extortion, and criminal threats, this court will now determine sentencing." Dominic leaned back, jaw tight. He crossed and uncrossed his legs. His mother whispered something into his ear. He flinched but said nothing. His lawyer looked exhausted, the sort of fatigue that comes from knowing every argument had already failed. Judge Riggs cleared her throat. "In light of the evidence, including medical testimony, recorded admissions, witness statements, and the emotional toll on the victim and his family, the court finds as follows." She paused, letting the gravity settle over the room like a thick fog. 4 years in state prison," she pronounced. The words landed like steel. Dominic froze mid-breath. His fists clenched on the table. He didn't speak. The officers stepped forward to remind him of the consequences if he resisted. "Mandatory anger management programs shall be completed during incarceration," Judge Riggs continued. "And lifetime restitution is hereby ordered to the victim, Victor Hale, for all damages and medical costs incurred." Dominic's attorney opened his mouth but closed it again. There was nothing to argue. Nothing could erase the litany of documented atrocities or undo the confession that had played for the jury and now this courtroom. Victor exhaled slowly, gripping Logan's hand. "It's over, at least the first part." Logan gave a slight nod, voice quiet. "Justice doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be true." Dominic's eyes finally met Victor's. There was fear there, finally. Not the sharp, taunting bravado he had worn like armor before. No, this was real, the kind of fear that comes from knowing the world had finally caught up. After sentencing, Logan met with his lawyer, Rebecca Cho, in her office to discuss the civil portion of the case. Her office smelled faintly of coffee and old leather, a scent Logan had come to associate with methodical, relentless preparation. "Logan," Cho said, sliding a thick folder across the desk, "this is where we get Victor fully compensated for the physical, emotional, and financial damages. We're filing for $215,000 in civil court." Logan glanced at the folder. Bank statements, hospital bills, therapy invoices, documentation of lost work. The total reflects the pain, medical costs, and lifelong disability? Exactly. And we'll enforce it through wage garnishment. 20 years, 25% of earnings. Victor, who had quietly followed Logan into the office, exhaled. "That's fair," he said softly, almost hesitant to hope. Cho looked at him. "Fair is measured in law, Mr. Hale. And here, it's enforceable." Victor gave Logan a small, tired smile. "You've been relentless, son." Logan nodded, squeezing his father's shoulder. "Only doing what had to be done." The filing process was meticulous. Each form verified, each document notarized, every transfer and expense tracked. Logan's attention to detail was surgical. Mason Hale provided additional supporting affidavits from witnesses who had overheard Dominic bragging in bars and public spaces. The attorney coordinating the garnishment schedule smiled at Logan's preparedness. "Most people don't prepare this thoroughly," she commented. "But you've already built the record from day one." Logan's reply was quiet but firm. "I didn't leave anything to chance." Weeks later, the court called the civil hearing. Logan and Victor entered to find Dominic sitting at the defendant table, looking smaller somehow. The confidence he had once carried into the courthouse seemed entirely deflated. Dominic's lawyer attempted procedural motions to reduce liability, citing financial hardship, character references, and remorse. Logan watched stoically as Judge Riggs dismissed each argument, citing the overwhelming evidence and the severity of the original attack. "This court finds in favor of Victor Hale," Judge Riggs ruled. "Dominic Kerr is hereby ordered to pay a total of $215,000 to be collected via wage garnishment, 25% of annual earnings over the next 20 years. Dominic's jaw dropped. His mother's hand flew to her mouth. Dominic muttered something inaudible, but it didn't change the ruling. Logan sat back, feeling the weight of resolution settle. Victor exhaled again, leaning slightly on Logan's shoulder. "It's a lot. I didn't expect him to pay in full." "You've got it documented," Logan said, "and legally enforced. He can't dodge it." Mason, who had been sitting quietly in the back, offered a small grin. "Good thing you don't take shortcuts." "No shortcuts," Logan echoed. His voice held that same calm precision he had exhibited throughout the investigation and trial. "Justice isn't a sprint. It's measured." Dominic glared at Logan, helpless now, a man reduced by consequence. He didn't speak. He couldn't. All of his threats, all of his arrogance, all of his delusions of control had been dismantled in meticulous, patient precision. Victor placed a hand over Logan's, gratitude and pride shining through his pain. "You did this," he said softly. "Every single step." Logan shook his head. "We did this. Together." The courtroom emptied slowly, officers leading Dominic away to begin serving his sentence. Logan remained seated for a moment, taking in the silence, feeling the echo of finality in the empty spaces. There was satisfaction, yes, but tempered with the quiet weight of reality. The recovery would be long, and the healing incomplete. The money, the legal victories, the prison sentence, none of that erased the damage, but it prevented future harm. Weeks later, Dominic's wage garnishment began. The first deposits were meager, but consistent. By law, 25% of his wages went directly into Victor's account. Logan tracked every payment, every deduction, ensuring the court's orders were enforced without delay. Victor watched, eyes brightening a little each time the deposit appeared. "It's small steps, but they add up." Logan nodded. "Justice isn't about vengeance. It's about preventing anyone from ever thinking they can do this again without consequence." Even as Dominic worked through his sentence and began paying restitution after release, Logan's discipline never faltered. Each document filed, each legal procedure completed, each enforced dollar was another brick laid in the wall of accountability. No shortcuts, no compromises, only precision, patience, and unwavering focus. And in that, Logan, Victor, and even the wounded remnants of their lives found a measure of balance. Chapter 10: Healing and Moving On. The mornings in Victor's apartment had taken on a new rhythm. The sharp scent of antiseptic mingled with the faint aroma of coffee brewing from the small kitchen. Logan often arrived first, quietly setting up the mat and resistance bands that had become a permanent fixture in the living room. Victor would shuffle into the space slowly, brace secured, a grimace masking the effort it took to lift his arm even an inch. "You ready today?" Logan asked, voice calm but sharp, eyes tracking every micro-movement. Victor grunted, "As ready as my broken body allows." He lifted the arm tentatively. A sharp stab of pain shot through him, and he hissed. "Remember the breathing," Logan instructed, adjusting his father's grip on a resistance band. "Control, not force. We're retraining muscles, not testing pain tolerance." Victor's face twisted with frustration. "It feels like I'm starting from scratch every damn day." "You are," Logan said evenly, kneeling beside him. "But you're getting stronger. You're building function back." Victor gave a humorless laugh. "At this rate, maybe I'll manage to lift the coffee cup one day without it hurting like hell." "You'll manage more than that," Logan said, voice firm. "Every inch you gain is a victory." Months passed in measured increments. The early days were brutal. Victor's tremors, sharp shocks of pain, and stubborn frustration clashing with his desire to move faster than his body allowed. Logan was relentless, but patient, coaching every micromotion. Wrist rotations, gradual extension, controlled grip exercises. Slowly, methodically, Victor's arm began responding. By 9 months, he could lift a cup, turn a doorknob, and even manage light household chores. Logan estimated conservatively Victor had regained about 75 to 85% of his pre-injury function. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress, and for a man of his pride and grit, it was monumental. At the same time, Logan began volunteering part-time, helping veterans navigate complex legal issues. The experience had been inspired by watching his father struggle to get restitution and understanding the frustration veterans faced when systems failed them. Logan worked in a small office downtown, reviewing paperwork, documenting cases, and speaking with veterans directly. "Thank you, Logan," one client, a retired Army sergeant, said as they finished reviewing medical records. "Most lawyers wouldn't give us the time of day. You actually listen." Logan nodded. "I understand what's at stake. Lives are on the line, even if it's just paperwork. It matters." "You're good at this," the sergeant said. "Ever think about doing it full-time?" Logan allowed himself a small smile. "Maybe. For now, this is enough." Meanwhile, Clara's world continued to crumble. The shame of Dominic's conviction and her own involvement in the events that led to Victor's injury left her family fractured. Arguments erupted over finances, old secrets came to light, and friends and neighbors whispered about betrayal and deceit. In the months following the trial, she quietly packed her belongings, leaving only a note behind for her mother. The family's home emptied in silence, the walls echoing the absence of their former pretensions. Arizona became Clara's refuge. The sun-soaked streets and dry air provided distance from the humiliation. Yet Logan knew her absence didn't erase the consequences of her actions. Dominic, meanwhile, began serving his sentence. Letters from him arrived sporadically, penned with clumsy remorse and pale ink. Logan opened the first carefully, reading the words in private. I am sorry. I know I can't undo what I did. I'm trying to understand the harm, though I know it's too late to make it right. Please, maybe one day you can forgive me." Logan didn't respond. He set the letter in a small, labeled box on the shelf with other evidence and correspondence. A quiet record of accountability. He didn't need closure from Dominic. Justice had been achieved in court, and the prison sentence ensured consequences. Weeks later, another letter arrived. Same tone, Same remorse. Logan read it once and placed it beside the first. The letters became artifacts rather than communication, reminders that the man who had inflicted so much pain could do nothing to repair the damage. Amid all this, Paige, Victor's physical therapist, entered their lives in a way Logan hadn't anticipated. Paige was professional, sharp, and patient, the perfect blend of knowledge and compassion. She guided Victor through exercises, demonstrating careful movements and encouraging microprogressions. Logan noticed her approach, the way she spoke to Victor with respect rather than pity, and the quiet confidence she radiated. One evening, after Victor had finished a particularly grueling session, Paige helped him sit and adjusted his brace. "Good work today," she said softly. "You pushed just enough without overdoing it." Victor smiled tiredly. "Feels like my arm might actually listen to me someday." Paige glanced at Logan, who had been standing silently, observing. "You've been incredible, Logan. Supporting him, keeping track of everything. Not everyone has that kind of dedication." Logan shrugged, a faint grin touching his lips. "He's my father. I'm not doing anything special." Paige laughed lightly, warm and genuine. "It's obvious he thinks otherwise." Victor coughed and waved them off, but the shared glance between Logan and Paige lingered, a subtle acknowledgement of mutual respect, trust, and the quiet potential of something more. Weeks passed, and Logan found himself looking forward to Paige's sessions, the way she encouraged progress, the way she laughed lightly when Victor tried to exaggerate minor victories. Gradually, casual conversations grew longer. Small jokes turned into shared coffee after sessions. Logan realized he was no longer thinking about Clara, Dominic, or the trial during these moments. He was thinking about building something positive, something grounded in trust and shared effort. One afternoon, after Victor completed an exercise routine, Paige lingered, gathering equipment. "You know," she said quietly, "if you ever wanted to join me for a coffee outside this chaos, I wouldn't object." Logan paused, measuring his response, then allowed a small, genuine smile. "I think I'd like that." Victor, sitting in a corner, rolled his eyes dramatically. "Finally, someone saying to keep you out of trouble, son." Logan chuckled softly. "Maybe. Or maybe just someone who can keep me honest." The healing, both physical and emotional, was ongoing. Victor's arm would never be perfect, but he was functional. Logan had found purpose in helping others. Justice had been served. And in Paige, a new chapter quietly began, one built on mutual respect, patience, and trust rather than betrayal and pain. The story of the past months, the trauma, the trial, the shattered family ties, was now behind them. They were forward-facing, focused on rebuilding, helping, and living fully despite scars, legal battles, and regrets. And for the first time in a long time, Logan felt like the future could hold something better than revenge. Chapter 11. 1 year later. The sun filtered gently through the blinds of Victor's living room, painting slatted lines across the floor where morning light met hardwood. Logan sat in the old armchair, legs crossed, a mug of black coffee warming his hands. Across from him, Victor leaned back in the recliner, his right arm now functional enough to hold a mug steadily, albeit with a slight tremor that reminded them both of the past year's ordeal. Silence filled the room at first, comfortable rather than awkward. It wasn't the kind of silence weighed down by fear or resentment. It was calm, deliberate, a shared space of reflection. Victor broke it with a small, dry chuckle. "You ever think about how different this time last year was?" Logan didn't look up immediately, letting the memory stretch briefly. Yemen, the phone call, Dominic's assault, Clara's betrayal, the hospital. Every step replayed vividly, still raw in the edges. He exhaled slowly. "Yeah, different and worse." Victor nodded. "I mean everything. The injury, the trial, the letters from that idiot in prison, the lawsuits. It was a damn storm." He tapped the side of his mug, eyes distant. "I couldn't lift a cup without screaming, couldn't open a door without a struggle. And there you were like a goddamn one-man army managing all of it." Logan's lips twitched in a faint smile. "I'm no hero, just focused. Someone had to make sure it was done right." Victor leaned forward slightly, resting his good arm across his knee. Focused, huh? Focus saved my arm, my life, and maybe even my sanity. And that son of a bitch Dominic, justice hurt him worse than any revenge I could imagine. Logan sipped his coffee, letting the warmth spread. Justice is precise. Revenge is messy and temporary. The law, the consequences we documented, that's what hit him hardest. Nothing emotional, nothing personal. It's just that he can't escape the results of his actions. Victor studied him quietly. You learned that the hard way, didn't you? Logan shrugged. I've seen both sides. Learn the difference between what feels good and what actually matters. I wanted him to suffer at first, but suffering is chaotic. Justice is clean. Permanent. Victor exhaled, soft and deliberate. The kind of breath a man takes when he's finally ready to release fear he's carried too long. I'm proud of the son I raised alone. You handled everything with grace. Discipline. Even when I couldn't. Logan's eyes softened. He set the coffee mug down on the side table, resting his elbows on his knees. I had a good teacher, he said quietly. You made me who I am. Victor laughed gently, a sound that carried relief and pride. And I'll keep saying it, don't forget it. Even when I yell at you for leaving a sock on the floor. Logan chuckled, the sound breaking some of the last tension from a year of struggle. Don't worry. I remember. Your lessons are hard to forget. They lapsed into a companionable silence, broken only by the faint hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of the apartment settling. Outside, traffic moved lazily down the street, neighbors beginning their day. Life continued, mundane and ordinary. And yet for the two of them, every ordinary action was a victory over the chaos that had upended their lives a year prior. I can actually lift weights again, Victor said after a moment, flexing his arms slowly. Not like before, but functional. Enough to feel like I've got some control back. Logan tilted his head, smiling faintly. Better than control. You got progress. That's more important than perfection. Victor's eyes glimmered with something between pride and relief. I never thought I'd feel like myself again. Not fully, but close enough. Thanks to you. Logan shrugged, though warmth curled in his chest. We both fought for it. You didn't give up. I didn't give up. That's what counts. The room went quiet again, but this time it wasn't stillness from fear, it was stillness from reflection. Logan thought about the past year, the trial, the courtrooms, the rage that had boiled so hot in him and had been carefully channeled. He thought about Clara leaving for Arizona, the hollow shell of her family collapsing under shame, the letters from Dominic he never responded to, the civil judgments, the wage garnishments, and every small step toward equilibrium they had carved out of chaos. Paige's presence, now woven into the edges of their lives, was quiet but tangible. Logan thought of her laughter as Victor completed exercises, the subtle ways she guided both of them toward progress without judgment. He realized that life had quietly returned, measured in small, meaningful victories, not explosive confrontations or dramatic payback. He met his father's gaze. I think we can choose peace now, not just for us, but for everyone else who's been involved. Victor nodded slowly. Yeah, choosing peace is harder than revenge sometimes, but lasts longer, and it feels better than I expected. Logan leaned back in his chair, letting the sunlight warm his face. Justice hit him hardest, he said softly. Not me, not my hands, not anger. The consequences, the law, the permanence of proof, that's what Dominic can't escape. And I've realized that's enough. Victor reached over, tapping Logan's shoulder with a gentle, steady hand. I'm proud of the son I raised alone. You made the right choices. You stayed disciplined, even when it hurt, even when it was tempting to lose yourself. Logan felt a rare, quiet swell in his chest. Not triumph, not satisfaction, but something close to closure. Years of training, heartbreak, fury, and meticulous preparation had led to this moment. Sunlight through blinds, a functional arm, a father and son sitting side by side, and the knowledge that justice, not rage, had been the final arbiter. He let out a slow breath, feeling tension release he hadn't realized he'd still been holding. I feel at peace, Dad. Finally. Victor smiled faintly, pride gleaming in his eyes. "You earned it, and so did we." They sat together in the morning light, reflecting on the storm that had passed, the growth it had forced, and the quiet victories that remained. There was no bitterness, no lingering desire for revenge. Only calm, only presence, only the hard-won understanding that justice had been done, consequences had landed where they should, and life could move forward. For Logan, that knowledge, paired with his father's pride, was more powerful than any verdict, any prison sentence, any civil award. For the first time in over a year, he allowed himself to lean back fully, relax, and let the warmth of peace settle across his shoulders. He had survived the year. They had survived, and in that survival, he found something he hadn't expected: closure, quiet, and a sense of justice that finally felt complete. Chapter 12, Final Message, Social Media Style Ending. The soft hum of Logan's laptop filled the quiet room as he leaned back in his chair, fingers hovering above the keyboard. The morning sun streamed through the blinds, slanting across the desktop cluttered with folders, photos, and legal documents, a stark contrast to the sleek, minimal interface of the social media platform he was about to engage. 1 year had passed since that life-altering day. The trial, the rehabilitation, the betrayal, the victory, it all lingered in memory, vivid and raw, yet tempered now by reflection. Logan's thumb traced the edge of a photo that had been on his phone for weeks. Victor's arm, post-rehab, gripping a coffee cup. A small, triumphant smile on his father's face said more than any words could. Beside it, Paige's presence, a professional warmth, a supportive hand, a connection that had grown organically amidst months of recovery. And Logan? He felt the weight of all that had happened and the unusual calm that came after storms of rage and chaos. He clicked on the Create Post button and stared at the blank text box. He knew this wasn't going to be just another update. This was his moment to distill every lesson, every pain, every victory into words that could resonate beyond himself. Justice, not revenge. He typed slowly, deliberately, choosing each word with the precision of a soldier, a son, and a man who had seen too much to be careless. It's been 1 year since my father's arm was broken by my ex-girlfriend's brother, a man who thought intimidation and violence could control lives, a man who underestimated the consequences of his actions. He paused, fingers hovering over the keyboard. He could feel the anger creeping back, sharp, raw, but he forced it down, letting the rational clarity take over. The point wasn't a vent. It was to teach, to document, to reflect. We went through courts, trials, and civil suits. We faced threats, lies, and the bitter sting of betrayal. But through every step, one truth became clear. Justice is not revenge. Justice is methodical, measured, and inevitable. It's making sure those who harm you never forget what they did, and that they face the consequences of their actions. Victor's voice echoed in his memory, a quiet affirmation during one of those long rehab mornings. Justice hurt him more than revenge ever could. Logan smiled faintly. That had been the lesson he carried every day afterward. He scrolled through past photos he had taken over the year. Victor lifting a resistance band for the first time without a wince, a legal folder with Mason's handwritten notes, the envelope with Dominic's remorseful letters untouched, Paige laughing lightly during an afternoon therapy session. Every image reinforced the narrative he wanted to leave behind. Resilience, justice, growth. I've learned that control over your response is far more powerful than the desire to retaliate. Anger fades, pain diminishes, but accountability remains. The law, the evidence, the truth. Logan's eyes drifted toward Victor, now reading a newspaper in the corner, his right arm steady, movements precise. There was pride in his gaze, tempered with the quiet awareness of vulnerability that lingered even after months of rehab. He had survived the injury, the betrayal, the trial, and Logan had survived it alongside him, disciplined, focused, and unwavering. This is not just my story. It's a reminder that when someone tries to break you, physically, emotionally, financially, staying methodical, keeping your focus, and ensuring the consequences are real is the path to true justice. Not revenge, true justice. Logan paused again. He wanted it to feel personal, but also universal. He wanted anyone reading this to feel the weight of his journey, but also see the possibility for their own path through injustice. He added a final reflection. A year later, my father has regained most of his arm function. I found purpose helping veterans with legal struggles. Paige, our physical therapist, has become more than a friend. And Dominic, he's paying for his choices fully, as he should. Closure isn't about hatred, it's about ensuring accountability. And for those who hurt you, that is far more lasting than revenge ever could be. Then he leaned back and read it aloud quietly, almost as a test to see if the words carried the gravity he intended. Justice is not revenge. It's making sure those who harm you never forget what they did. Yes, that line held. It was concise, hard-hitting, and true. Logan knew he wanted engagement, not validation, not sympathy, real understanding, real discussion. So he typed the final line in his signature social media confession style. Have you ever faced someone who thought they could harm you without consequence? Comment below. I want to hear your story. Let's talk about real justice. He hovered over the post button for a long moment. Fingers tense, breath steady. And then, with the deliberate certainty of a man who had faced life and death situations and emerged intact, he clicked. The post went live. Within minutes, notifications began trickling in. Shares, likes, and comments from people who had experienced betrayal, injustice, or violence. Some wrote about financial exploitation, others about emotional abuse, some even about physical confrontations like his own. The comments weren't angry. They were reflective, grateful for the perspective that justice could be precise, methodical, and effective without resorting to blind rage. Victor glanced over, brow raised. So, the world sees your rant. Logan smirked. Not a rant. A lesson. And a record. Victor chuckled, shaking his head. Always the soldier, even in cyberspace. Paige entered quietly, noticing the glow of the screen and the subtle shift in Logan's expression, a mixture of calm, closure, and resolve. Looks like you're sharing your story, she said softly. Logan nodded, and hopefully helping someone else see that revenge isn't necessary. Accountability is. Paige smiled faintly, moving closer. That's powerful and honest. People need to hear that. Victor lifted his coffee mug. To the year that tested us, and to the justice that lasted longer than anger. Logan mirrored him, clinking his mug lightly against his father's. To justice. The laptop notifications continued their gentle buzz. Stories, reflections, discussions, messages from strangers who understood the same truth. Logan leaned back in his chair and exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the past year settle like dust on a shelf, acknowledged, accounted for, and finally resting. He knew the future held challenges, but the lesson remained. Justice, clear, measured, and inescapable, was the ultimate victory. Not revenge, not anger, not satisfaction. True justice endured, and through it, the lives of those who sought to harm him and his family had been irrevocably marked. And in that, Logan felt a sense of resolution he hadn't known he needed. The post was live. The world could see. The message was clear.